Welcome to our podcast, Big Tobacco Messed with the Wrong Moms. My name is Dorian Furman.
I'm Meredith Berkman. We're the Wrong Moms. This is a podcast of Parents Against Vaping E-Cigarettes, or PAVe, which is a national grassroots advocacy and education organization created by moms to fight the youth vaping epidemic and the predatory behavior of big tobacco.
And today we are thrilled to have as our guest, and we're using first names only, and you will see why later on, but we're thrilled to welcome Sara, a pediatrician from New York, who is going to tell us a little bit about the health harms of e-cigarettes and then share her own story. So thank you, Sara, for being here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to just your organization because it's given me not only professional but really great personal support that I really needed, and that I guess we'll talk about later. But as a pediatrician in New York, starting about as you know, 5 years ago, we started hearing about this new way to perhaps quit smoking, or perhaps like a different way to smoke cigarettes without having the tar and some of the issues with smoking. And it first started kind of coming on the market and we started hearing about it. But as pediatricians, we kind of didn't know too much. But as time went on, we started learning more and more about it and learning that children were vaping. And it was called electronic cigarettes or e-cigarettes. And it kind of took us by surprise. It looked like a device that you would plug into the computer. And a lot of parents didn't realize that their children were vaping.
Sara, of course, you're referring specifically here to the entrance onto the market of Juul, which was the game changer, and a company that has been well documented in congressional testimony and in all kinds of medical journals, et cetera, that it was Juul's renovation of some pre-existing e-cigarette technology, right? It was creating, as you said, a tech sheet, stealth by design, social media marketed to young people. And whether or not Juul knew when they brought this product onto the market that it would be appealing to young people, it was very, very clear to them early on. And to this day, we know that kids are using this, millions and millions of kids. What was the moment for you personally as a pediatrician, before we get to you as a parent, that crystallized? What was your aha moment where you thought, wait a minute, this product, this is being used by kids? This may even be marketed to kids.
We're always a little behind the kids, right? So I think the kids honestly started talking about it to me before I even started hearing about it as a pediatrician. It was kind of, I would say, at least maybe a year or so before we realized what an impact it was having. And to the point where we even had, I remember one of my receptionists coming up to me in the office saying, I think there's a person vaping in the waiting room and she's waiting to be seen. She was an older adolescent and she was vaping. And so that's when we kind of had to have a meeting and say, I don't think they should be vaping in the waiting room.
Oh my gosh, that is such a shocking and disgusting, tragic image, that here's a young woman, a teenager, without shame, right? She just probably did you. What did she say when she came in?
I guess they didn't know anything was bad. In the beginning, they thought it was just water vapor.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I don't think we had. I mean, I guess as when you look back at it, you go, oh my gosh, how did that even happen, right? But no, now, back then, what we didn't know. And I think that, it was thought of as kind of the safer way, I guess. But honestly, it shouldn't be happening in a medical facility.
People have said in the past, it's maybe the safer way. And that's what they would put, that's what Juul put on their advertisements, on the radio, when your kids to school, switch over, it's safer. But at the end of the day, no one knows if it's safer, but kids heard safe and then they thought it's okay.
I mean, as a pediatrician, and I know even as a mom, adolescents don't have the full brain development that adults do. So your brain continually develops. up until age actually 21 or even 23 or 25. So you have the part of your brain that kind of takes charge. Sometimes some of the decisions that adolescents make, and honestly, adolescent age group is like one of my favorite age groups. So I love newborns and adolescents, and then toddlers follow like a close third. So I just feel like that the adolescent age group, they are so able to think out of the box, and their ideas are amazing because they're not in that conformed stage yet. But unfortunately, this leads to some bad decision making.
This was a generation who would not have been using tobacco products. They would not have smoked cigarettes. And, but for the chic lifestyle promise of Juul, they would not be vaping. And then Juul came along and started the youth vaping epidemic and basically destroyed decades of work by pediatricians, by parents, by government, by, everyone.
What I did notice personally in my practice was that, some kids may try things and kind of tell me that, oh, I've tried it, or no, I'm never going to do that. So some of the things that we ask is, yeah, do your friends do that? Are your friends smoking? Are your friends vaping? Are your friends drinking? And, what I did see was around that time, kids would tell me, oh, everyone is vaping. Everyone. They would always say that. They would say, I don't vape, and then you kind of like build on that. But they would say everyone is vaping. And, it was just, and some kids that weren't even in high school yet. These are kids in middle school, and middle school is 11 to 13. And it's really scary that middle school students were being exposed, or still are being exposed to these things.
Brings us to the second part of our conversation, and in some ways the more intimate part. You then had to have this conversation with one of your own children. So I think we'd like to know when you discovered that and how you handled it, or how you are handling it.
So yes, so that's, yes, so that's part of, I think, why I kind of not changed, but tried to reel in some of my messaging when I talk to the kids at work, because as I said before, we do learn a lot from our own children. So probably during my involvement with the American Academy of Pediatrics and just being a pediatrician and my own education about vaping and getting those, that data, and the CDC, and everybody had like slides and things like that. I started doing, presentations to my own, to the library, schools, PTAs. And I basically was giving things to look for, what to look for around your house to see if your child may be vaping themselves. And so I started to find some of those in my own home. And and so I did find out that my one of my kids had started vaping, and by the time I found out, it was already like probably about 2 or 3 years that it was going on. And it was hard. It was hard as a parent and as a parent, as a it was really just tough. It was probably a really tough moment, um, because you kind of just feel like you failed as a parent. Um, I felt like I failed as a pediatrician. I felt, and it's not about me, right? But that took a little bit of time to figure all that out, and it took me time to figure out that he was one of the many that got scooped up in the in the marketing of it all. And as we talk, and we still continue to talk about it, because he is, unfortunately, he's having a lot of trouble quitting, and it's just so heartbreaking to see that. And it happened right as we all were watching. And I think that's a tough thing as a parent.
So
And
what did you notice? I mean, how did it kind of, I mean, you were talking about this outside of your home and then you thought, well, wait a second, my kid is doing the, like, how did that come
well,
out,
and
and what happened with his, like, how did it change him, or I'm just, because people see different things, and I know a lot of our parents, out there like really want to know, you know, that they're not alone in missing this. You know, this, teenagers are difficult anyway. You add this on top of it and they're impossible, but it's easy to miss.
It really is. I mean, so this was pre-COVID. So, during when they're in high school, they change, and it's there were kind of like, now looking back, there were mood swings. There was kind of like differences in how he was maybe performing in school a little bit, but nothing, nothing out of the super ordinary. It was like kind of a slow, I think, thing. And I think what basically, I think some little things here and there that I didn't realize meant that. And then basically it was, one instance where I found like a lot of things in his bag.
I had this in my own home, right? I'm doing this work for 3 years now, and I missed with one of my own children that child was using. And so I'm not a pediatrician, but I am an anti-vaping activist slash advocate, and I missed it. And I think it's really important for parents listening whose kids are using or addicted to hear those stories, because it gets to the heart of the stealth by design, that the intentionality of the creation of products that we would miss. And so I think it's brave of you to share, but I think that's why if you would just sort of tell us what you said, what your son said, and then what happened.
So basically, when I did find out, he said, "Okay, oh mom, I meant to." It actually was a relief for him almost that I found out, because, and then he said, I'm stopping. Like, that's it. I'm stopping everything. I don't want to do it anymore. And I think it was just hard for him to like hide everything too, and just, I think it helped him to come clean a little bit, or to let me know about it, and we talked about it. And yeah, he said he was going to quit. So, okay. So I said, okay, we're going to quit. I'm going to help you. I started looking for, cessation or vaping cessation. Okay. And I found all these great resources that were kind of like more about, you text and quit, right? So, hashtag quit vape. All these resources came up, and so I signed up. I had him sign up. I would send him messages. We threw out everything that that he had. We tried to make sure that there's nothing left. He assured me that, nah, I'm quitting, I'm done, everything's fine. Okay. And so I would kind of check in with him and say, okay, is everything okay? We're gonna exercise, drink lots of water, try to try to do like do a whole cleanse. And I'm just laughing because that doesn't work. You can't quit by just saying, okay, can you quit now? That's not how it works. And I didn't know that. And so that was a whole learning process for me too. You can't, then I started realizing, like, when I'm doing the same thing to the kids in my office too. I'm saying, okay, well, oh, okay, you vape, okay, so you just quit. You just have to quit. And no, that doesn't work. They need help. They need a lot of help. They need
A
a
lot.
patch. They need medication. They need daily like reaffirmation, assurance. And the other thing they need is not having all of their friends doing it while they're quitting. So that's the hard part. That's like it's hard for them to quit at this point, because it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Right. The thing I liked most about what you said in the conversation with your son, which I had the conversation with one of my kids, was we're going to quit. And when we talk to parents, we say the most important thing is you say, we're going to partner. We're going to quit. As you said, you're not going to do this alone. It's too hard. That doesn't mean that there aren't rules and there isn't punishment for other things in your life, but you don't punish children for an addiction, because we're talking about an addiction. And that's why schools separately, the whole issue of alternatives to suspension and changing the mindset. This is not out. And then the other thing that you said, that, and I think you were referring to an excellent resource from one of our partners. In fact, the sponsorship of our podcast, Truth Initiative, has This Is Quitting, which is the text chain. And right, there's a parent track and there's a kid track, and it's an evidence-based program. But, there are so few proven, but there are so few proven, there's no FDA approved, cessation for vaping for minors. And then the other piece of that's very, very important, as you said, how do these kids quit when they go into the quote Juul room, the bathroom, and it's all around them? And you're a doctor, I'm not, but my understanding is the nicotine receptors in the developing brain are activated because the kids are addicted. That never goes away. So if you are struggling to quit and you are in school or you're in the outside the parking lot or wherever it is, and it's all around you, or at a party, then the temptation, it's biological, right? It's going to be so much easier to slip back in. So what has worked for your son? What did you try with him? And you mentioned, did you then try some of those things, suggest them to patients as well?
Yes. So one of the issues that you just brought up is that there's no FDA approved cessation for under 18. So we did try. So some of the things that I tried prior to him turning 18 was, just kind of really heavy counseling and, trying to increase his activity and just avoiding those situations where he would, be there. I started doing more, I mean, not so much punishment, but you can do urine tests for nicotine detection, and it's hard to do that with your own child, right?
And then to what end? Because right, to what end? Because at that point you're supposedly helping them and you're working together, and so it's hard. I mean, I must say that, when this hit home for me and my child was vaping, it was, his doctor put him on the nicotine patch and nicotine gum. And even though it's authorized only for over 18, from what I hear and from our own personal experiences, it's used what they call it off label because it's underage. It's really the only thing. You can't just quit cold turkey, as you said before. And then, you also sometimes use antidepressants to stabilize the mood and to stabilize the brain chemistry.
Yeah, so definitely. No, what I also wound up doing was taking him to an internist. And so because this was a little bit out of my own, wheelhouse, he definitely started on the patch, and then he also did the gum. It's difficult. He, by this time, is away at school. So when he's home, when he was home, we really, last summer, we were able to completely, come down. We stopped. We were off everything. We had done the patches. We had done, medication, and we were in a really good spot. And then, he went back to school, and I'm not there. Not that it was me, but I felt like he did get the support that he needed, and the other thing is, unfortunately, that the kids don't like telling everybody, and they don't want to kind of share that aspect that they have an addiction, and it is something that is hard for them, and that's something that they don't want to share. And so not having all your friends kind of, maybe a few friends knew that we were trying to quit, but if all your friends aren't on board, or there are some kids that are still kind of using, and like it's everywhere, you kind of slide back in. And once you start up again, it's such a difficult, it's a hard process to go through, that the next time around it's even more difficult.
And yet, they say when people quit smoking cigarettes, it's the same thing. I think they say that each, what is it? The average is maybe they try 9 or 10 times before they quit successfully. So, kids' brains are developing. This is when they're imprinting memories. So it's even harder now. That's why, 95% of people begin smoking or vaping before the age of 21. And to your point, all your friends have to be on board. You need that support, not just from your parents, not just from your doctors, but from your friends.
This is not about failure of a child or the failure of a parent. It's about the predatory behavior of an industry, and what we now, all of us, with Sara and so many other remarkable volunteers we have at Parents Against Vaping, can do together to protect our kids, to make sure we protect younger kids from starting, and to help the kids who need our help in stopping. So I just want to thank you so much, and I hope that people listening will go to parentsagainst.vaping.org and join us. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you.
Do you have a teen or young adult at home that vapes? This is Quitting is a free and anonymous text message program designed to help young people quit vaping. Teens and young adults can text DITCH VAPE to 88709 to sign up today. That's provided by Truth, the National Youth Tobacco Prevention Campaign, from our partner and sponsor, the Truth Initiative. It's the first of its kind program that helps young people feel motivated, inspired, and supported while quitting. More than 150,000 young people have enrolled since the program launched in January 2019.
The messages include evidence-based tips and strategies to quit, combined with real feedback from young people. Again, teens and young adults can enroll by texting DITCH VAPE to 88709. Truth Initiative also offers free text messages for parents who are helping their children quit vaping. I myself enrolled in this program as well and would get different ideas and tips to help support my son. You can join the program by texting QUIT to 202-899-7550 or by visiting becomeanx.org to sign up.
To learn more about Truth Initiative and its programs, visit truthinitiative.org.